Then when you went back to China, was it hard?
So, like, sometimes I feel like I'm changing to a different person.
Oh, it's the other way around. I told her that I doubt if I could have this kind of relationship built in another country.
How did you find your first job in a new country?
Hello! Welcome to yet another season of TingTingandKaKa's podcast. And this season, we're gonna talk about...
We are going to talk about what is work from the lenses of Chinese millennials in Australia.
Whoa, how boring and depressing!
Well, we both took a career break to find the meaning of work. Many friends in our community are also wondering how to find the dream job, how to be financially independent, and how to navigate certain tricky work situations.
Alright, blah, blah, blah.
So this is a safe space for us to share our true stories and real feelings towards work.
Ooh, dark secrets? I'm in.
No, it's a safe space. No dark secrets.
Dark secrets. 霸道总裁爱上我。Hello, listeners. It's time to talk about what are the differences between working in China and working in Australia.
Haha, why does this topic interest you?
Well, even I don't think I'll work in China unless something dramatic happens in my life. But my social media, my network, family and friends, they're all Chinese. And you know that feeling when everybody around you is watching the same drama and you kind of wonder what the fuss is about, even you're not that interested in the type of drama.
Haha, I really like these analogies. But I actually would love to join the drama. Because my career starts in Australia, I feel like I'm missing out a full experience there. So especially as someone who is currently working in the tech, I'm definitely open to any opportunity to work in the tech space in China. So hopefully this episode can help me understand what is the transitions and work life like in China.
Mwahaha. And we have the perfect guest for today's episode.
Yes. So when we decided to discuss this topic, the first name popped into my mind is Wendy Bai. Not because she is a good friend and trusted advisor for me, but also she has extensive working experience in both China and Australia. Wendy graduated from one of the most elite universities in China. She has worked for some of the most iconic global companies. Later on, she went to build her own startup. About 6 years ago, she made the courage move and brought her family, career, and dream to Australia. So I couldn't think of anyone else who is more suitable to join this discussion.
And I brought along my friend Qu Ge. So she had lived in China, the USA, and Canada. In my mind, she would never struggle with finding a job anywhere in the world. She went to the top university in China, then later Ivy League, and then was offered a job in Canada. Just when I thought everything seemed so perfect for this girl, she suddenly told me she decided to go back to China. If you want to hear the full story of Qu Ge and why she made the decision, check out the first episode in the first season. But today, we will follow up on whether that was a good decision for her after all. Well, enough about Wendy and Qu Ge, it is rapid fire time. What is the biggest difference between working in China versus working overseas? And here are the 5 choices. A, the people are the biggest difference. B, the salary is the biggest difference. C, the working hours is the biggest difference. D, the food is the biggest difference. E, others, and you have to say what it is.
I think this one probably should start with Xiaoqu to Wendy to us because we don't have that many experience compared to them. So
shuffling, dun 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 dun,
and then to
dun,
Wendy.
dun, 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 dun. Okay, Xiaoqu.
I can only choose one.
Yeah, the biggest.
I would choose A.
The people.
Yeah.
Okay. Wendy. What's
In priority orders, people, working hours, and food.
Ah, look at that. It's lucky you didn't go first because I was second. Actually, I can still second that. Okay, so
I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience, but my assumption is C is the working hours. That's my assumption.
Me too. I feel the working hour is the most obvious difference from how I see from, news and social media and talking to people. If you can choose, do you choose to 躺平, lying flat, or compete in the involution, 内卷? So I
躺平 or 内
would
卷
choose neither. Charlotte.
It depends. I think sometimes I prefer work-life balance in overall, but I also want to live my fullest.
10 seconds. Wendy.
Okay.
I second Tingting on this one. Neither.
小曲儿.
Neither.
This is like the tone of this podcast now. It's like second that. Do you prefer to work in a big city or a small city?
Big city.
It depends.
Charlotte.
It depends.
All right, me, big city. Was your overseas experience worth it?
Totally worth it.
Totally. Okay, Wendy.
Yes, and I think every experience was worthwhile. So not just overseas experience.
I love Wendy's answer. I'm going to second that. That's so good.
Okay, I'm gonna second that too. Yeah. So the next question.
My copyright.
Xiaoche, have you ever considered? Because I guess you work in a big city.
Yeah.
Have you sort of thought about maybe later in a different life stage you need something else and you'll move?
I don't know. I'm thinking about if I go back home at some point of my life, I may be worried about like my friends. Like most of them they're still in Guangzhou, and if I go back home, like I have to build up my social circle all over again.
What
Yeah.
do you think, Wendy? Wendy had to do that. What do you think? Was it worth it? Oh, everything's worth it, by the way.
You mean moving to a smaller city?
Like moving to Sydney, I guess it's probably
Moving to Sydney.
a more relaxed lifestyle.
Yeah, but you are right. I did go through the thing that Xiaoqu mentioned, establishing your friends and your social network all over again. Yeah, I still remember that on the first day I got my mobile phone when I arrived in Sydney, and I started the phone and I realized in the address book I got none, just my husband. That's my only friend in this.
The most important person in your life.
Yeah, he is. He definitely is. But that's all I've got. I don't know anyone else apart from him. So starting from zero.
Then
so
what happened?
then slowly we moved into a suburb and with parks. And so we took my son out in parks to play, and gradually we mingle with other kids' parents, especially Chinese kids. So it's because it's easier for us to communicate. And then slowly you meet more people at work, and you started to build that relationship. I had very, very big concerns before I moved here. My best friend in China, she told me that you probably won't get a very good friendship relationship like what we have built in the past 10 years or something. She remains my best friend. It's the other way around. I told her that I doubt if I could have this kind of relationship built in another country, and then it happened to me. I guess I'm also very lucky. I met very good people, very, very good people, and they helped me so much. Even when they did not know me that well. So now I've got a very good family friends, 3 very good family friends. Our kids always play together, and we went on vacation together. Together we do holidays together. We had family gatherings all the time. We are just like relatives in this country. So I feel very fortunate to have that friends. That social network is very important for people.
So basically,
but
it's possible.
Don't underestimate the possibility. You can rebuild those network, those relationship.
Now we're gonna talk about
How did you find your first job in a new country? Bum, 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 bum. Who should we start? Wendy, would you like to start? Maybe share about how did you find your first job in Australia?
Okay, but for me, I'm not sure if I think you guys might be disappointed with my response because when I was working in China, I most of the time I work in multinational companies. So finding a job here in Australia isn't really that different from finding a job in a multinational company in China. I started applying jobs before I arrived in Australia, like about 3 weeks ago. Before I got on the flight, I started applying. I just crazily sent out resumes. I was lucky enough to have the sort of first round phone interview with 2 companies before I got on the flight. The difficult thing is that most companies are looking for local experience, which I did not have at that time. So that's the biggest barrier. The second biggest barrier would be language, because after all, English is not my first language. And yeah, and at first hearing Australian accent, it's not that it's not like that I can clearly respond to all the questions over the phone. So that also adds some difficulty.
What about the type of the interview question being asked? Do you find it like different?
Yeah, no one asked me if I'm married or not. So that's good. But in terms of work-related questions, not that different. On the other hand, my husband was very unlucky. He couldn't find any jobs in the first 1.5 years, I think, at least, because his major, what he studied back in China was sort of research related for seismic data for an oil company. And here in Sydney, there is no oil companies and big companies like that. You probably can find some opportunities in Perth, but I'm not moving to Perth. So so he has to find ways to pivot his career, to change direction from zero. So yeah, good on him. He trenched through and he started his career as a junior DevOps 3 years ago, and now he's also transitioned to a senior DevOps role. So one thing I have to, yes, it's very hard. I can't tell how many nights he put, just studying online or every night basically. One thing I would say that I really, really love about this culture in Australia is that everyone gets opportunities as long as you work hard for it and you got skill set for it. They give you opportunities regardless of your age. Even if you're 60, I see many good developers in their 60s. You can be a very good developer in your 60s if that's your passion. Whereas in China, no company would hire a developer that's 60 years old. No company would do that. If you are 60, they would think, oh, you are still doing developer. You are not senior enough. You are not manager. You are so they wouldn't consider you. You can't work for long hours, and they just don't see value in you. They won't give you that opportunity. Whereas in this country, my husband, he's in his 40s, right? And 3 years ago, he had to start in DevOps as a junior developer, but he was fortunate enough to be given this kind of opportunity. As long as you want to learn, a company gives him the opportunity to start. And then he thrived in that environment. He picked up things very quickly as he used to. And he really made huge effort working towards that. So
I think there's definitely a lot of credits dedicated to him, because I have seen, this is not to say that age discrimination or like any discrimination doesn't exist in Australia, but I would say definitely you will be given opportunities
Yeah.
if you like try very, very hard. Like the discrimination factor or like occasional, like depends on the situation. It will not always inhibit your potential to do what you want to do.
Yeah, I agree. Well summarized. Thanks, Tingting.
What about you?
My first job.
I'm interested in both. I think I'm interested in the first job you actually go when you go overseas, go to US. I also interesting to hear when you with your overseas degree, when you go back to China with all the overseas degree, like how did you find your first job in China as well?
I think I might disappoint you all. So I found my first job in Canada. How did I find that? I attended a career fair. I also got a very good recommendation from a professor I was very close to. I was his like teaching assistant during graduate school. So like
through relationships.
Yeah. So that was the first time I realized how a good connection could help you to like go forward in your career.
Then when you went back to China, was it hard? I remember it used to be a like an advantage if you have an overseas degree, but I've heard these days it's not the case. What was it for you in your personal experience? Not to mention you went to an Ivy League.
I think it's still a bonus, but it's not like a very big bonus as it was before. Like people still would like to talk to you when they see that you went abroad for graduate school, and they would be very interested in your experience. But I think a lot of work in China, the work in China, it requires more like local experience. So the thing you are doing abroad, it's not necessarily applicable for the work in China.
Will you see that as a disadvantage in almost in a way as well? Because as what I heard in China, it's also a very relationship based kind of country. So when you study overseas, will it become kind of opportunity cost for you to not using the 3 years time, 2 or 3 years time to build a relationship within the country? And like, what do you think about the trade-off? Like, do you see that almost like a disadvantage because you leave for that period of time to get a degree instead of staying?
Yeah. To that point, it's actually it is a disadvantage because a lot of like my classmates, they went to graduate school in China, and they use that time to like build their connections in like in school through their teachers, or they use the intern time to go outside to do different things in different companies, and then they can like build different relationship which can help them to get their first formal job. But I don't have that.
So how did you get the first job? How did you actually get the first job then? Is it through interview?
It was like also a recommendation. Like I sent my resume to a classmate. When he heard about that I was looking for a job in China, and he just told me that he happened to know one, and I just like sent my resume to him, and I got that job.
So then what is a big bonus these days? Like if an overseas experience or overseas degree is not like the big bonus, these days what is the big bonus on your resume? Like if you have that in your resume, you're like 99% guarantee people will want to interview you.
I think in China, schools are always like the first, like the most useful thing on the resume. If you went to a good school, and people would think you have the capability of doing work greatly. And if you went to a big company that everybody recognizes as a good company, they also would think it's a bonus for you, and they would talk to you more about your previous work, and they would think you might have like have the capability to do the work they want you to do.
So
Yeah.
Is that means in China in general, if they favor the big company's brand over a small like skill set in a small company?
Yeah, I think
even-
so.
I think so too.
So what I'm trying to figure out is how it sounds like definitely they favor the big company one, but how does that compare to the skill set?
That also counts, definitely. It's not just looking at the companies, but if you have the same experience, if you had it in a big company versus you had it in a small company, definitely the first one holds more value. But that's not to say that people who only worked in small companies do not have a shot. It really depends on how you really promote yourself. I think for people with that background, you need to try harder to package your skill set to really show what you've got in the interviews.
So I'm going to go to a little bit more realistic. What is salary different between China and overseas?
So you in China, you usually get, I have to use Chinese now, 五险一金. I'm not sure if you've heard. That's in addition to your salary, you've also got some insurance, some safety net that government has set up for you. Among those benefits, one crucial thing is the thing that we do not get in Australia, and that is the 公积金, is to sort of subsidize your housing spending. And most people, if you have an apartment or if you buy some property in China, you can use that to repay your monthly repayment, your mortgage. And it should cover at least a good part of that. And also the insurance for health and things like that. Basically, your basic stuff should be covered in the social system. And that's when, in addition to your salary. And which means with your salary, you only need to cover your own spendings, living expense. And as Tingting mentioned, the living expense is way much lower than Australia. Everything is affordable. Taxi is affordable. Eating in restaurants, it's just so much more affordable comparing in Sydney. So, and the salary part, I used to work in Beijing. I can only compare Sydney and Beijing for business analyst role. For this role with 15 years experience, I would say that my friend who's in the same role in Beijing now, her salary is, let me recount. Her salary is slightly less than mine. If we just talk about before tax salary, slightly likely, the difference is really not that much. But after tax, we're paying very high tax in Australia. After tax, her salary plus bonus and all this, all sorts of benefits. In total, her benefits would be better than my package in Australia for similar role in similar industry. That's the reality. And if we are talking about some very good opportunities in tech, because BA do not necessarily always tie into tech, but if we're talking about very hot tech industry like fintech and things like that, you definitely get much better pay in China versus here. So that's in pay wise and life affordability wise, I would say things are better in China, at least from my experience comparing Beijing to Sydney. We are paying very high tax.
Yeah, but would the living style be similar? Like given the salary, but would you say your friend is living a similar sort of lifestyle? I'm talking about going.
She's definitely busier. She's definitely busier than me.
Oh, I mean, or like restaurants, like I remember somebody telling me, in Australia, doesn't matter how much you earn, you go to the same park, in like, imagine you living in like the same suburb. So I'm not talking about like extremely expensive suburbs, but then you can like, even if you're not earning as much, you know, like rich people can afford to go to fine dining every day.
Yeah.
But if you're not that rich, but you can go during your anniversary, like once a year. So in terms of that, like that living style, do you feel it's a lot different between you and your
I
friend
think
in that
so.
example?
At least, even if just compare myself now and when I was in the life that I had when I was in Beijing, I don't, yeah, when I was in Beijing, I don't even think twice if I need to go to a restaurant, even for fine dining, or when I needed to take a taxi in a raining day. I don't even need to think twice. Whereas in Sydney, oh, honestly, I only took taxi once, and that was absolutely when it's absolutely needed. And for eating in restaurants, I usually just go to normal restaurants, not the fine dining type of restaurants. I might do that with friends on some festivals or some special occasions, but definitely not as frequent as I did in the past in Beijing. So yeah, I guess that there's a big difference for dining and taxi and transport, things like that.
I agree with Wendy. Like it depends on the industries you're in, and I think it also depends on like the cities you are in. So for my experience is that like I only get, I think, less than 2/3 of my salary I got before in Canada, but I'm in different industry right now because back in Canada I was in a planning and design firm, and right now I'm in real estate, so it's totally different. I actually have a question. Like I feel my working habit is being reshaped because of the environment, but some of the part of it I think I'm not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with that, but you kind of don't have the control of it because everybody has that kind of habit. And wow, this is so negative, but
Oh no, I love it. I love it. Just so you know, this is what it's meant to be about, by the way. Can you give us an example? Like for example, Friday night, your boss want you to do something. Is it something like that?
yeah, I feel like I'm putting more time thinking about how I should present myself. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, but for me, I'm not like an extrovert person. I'm more like an introvert person. I tend to spend more time like thinking how this thing should be done rather than like presenting to others. So like sometimes I feel like I'm changing to a different person and I don't recognize myself as I am in the office. So that's a thing keeps bothering me this time.
But you said it's not a bad thing. So you actually think it's good?
Spend more time talking to others rather than working by themselves. So sometimes I think maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's something that is necessary, that is I have to adapt to, but it's not necessarily what I am. So it's a little bit like, I don't know.
Like at what point do you draw this is a personal development? At what point do you draw, no, this is changing who I am, I need to be true to myself? Like where's the boundary?
Can I honestly say that was my question? You just summarized it.
Susan Cain is a really famous book, literally called Quiet. It's essentially talking about how we'll be able to, as an introvert person, how will you be able to actually still lead the team without losing your personality? And this is a big topic, and this has only become really popular, I guess, in the last few years, trying to prove the world that you can be yourself and be an introvert and influencing people quietly. But the whole fact that this book became a phenomenon is because this is the issues. Because there is a like personality, like there's a persona of the what a leader should look like. It's people who can lead and speak and loud and bringing people together. Do you think the leadership or manager actually aware there's different personality in the team and actually actively trying to coaching things differently? I think that's something I wanted to know.
Or do they all want the same person? They want 10 extrovert per people who really know how to present themselves.
Yeah, maybe I can share something on that topic. So Charlotte, you know me, I've been considered as an introvert, a quiet person in the team anyways. So basically in all my jobs in Australia, in meetings, sometimes I will be asked by my colleagues, my team, that if I feel differently or if I have different opinions on this. So maybe because of language barrier or because of my personality, sometimes I will hold back my comments, my opinions. But for people who that know me very well, worked with me very well, they know that I must have something to say. So they will sort of cue me. They will just ask me, what do you think? So when that happens, I'll just tell them what I think. But in some cases, especially when there are maybe senior leadership team is there or something like that, I chose not to speak too much unless I was asked to. That I guess that's my personality. Yeah.
Do we see a lot of quiet introvert leader around us as a role model in our life?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think quiet people can't lead or anything like that. It's just you are influencing people in a different way.
Do you think that person, how does that person kind of get their voice being heard?
The leader that I met is when I was in Mercedes-Benz. She was very firm but soft. She never yelled or raised her voice in meetings. But she knows exactly what she's talking about. She has all the facts to support her proposal, and she knows the issues or the problems with other solutions. So if she wants to push her idea forward, she will do that with all the supporting details, and just be very soft and firm, and politely point out the problems in other solutions if we want to go other ways. How would you approach that? If that happens, how would you deal with that? Something like this, and to make her point, but you don't have to raise your voice to be the loudest one in the room to make your point.
So Xiaoqiao, do you have like a mentor or some of the leader in your area that like Wendy described there, like is a quiet introvert, someone probably have quite similar personality like yourself at the moment, but it's actually in a leading position?
I think so. I think the leader of my department I'm in right now, he is more like an introvert rather than an extrovert, and he actually told us that when he first went to work, he was very quiet. He didn't speak about his opinions very often, but he tried to change that, and he also encouraged us to speak up, to say more about our opinions, to talk to other people, and to let other people hear us. So I don't think that's I think in that way he was encouraging us to try to be an extrovert rather than stay as an introvert. So that didn't like kind of solve my problem. Yeah.
Are we talking about like introvert or extrovert, or are we talking about a culture? Because there can be, because obviously in any, I think overall, if people are more willing or they're good at like speaking up, speaking their opinions, they will get heard first. But are we talking about a culture where only extroverts' opinions are valued and heard, and there's no instruments in place to hear a diverse opinion from people who are not speaking up? Like that's one culture. Another culture is, yeah, extroverts will still get heard first, but there are processes in place and there are people who care about a diverse.
Mine is definitely closer to the latter at the moment.
How about you, Xiaoqu?
I think it's very difficult to define. For my experience, like I think my supervisor, he tends to be sometimes a little bit aggressive when other people's opinions are different from his. But he also tries to check different people's opinions when we are like in a group discussion or something. But it's not like he always take everybody's opinions into his consideration. So it's a little bit difficult to define like which type.
Then is there like a culture of people just like saying things to make him happy rather than saying things that's
Definitely.
their true opinion?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
And then is that why you feel like I have to change myself in order to fit into this sort of conversation?
Yeah.
But you also feel wrong to feel in, right? Is a struggle currently now? Is you also conflicting with what you actually feel like to do? Or sometimes you also don't want it to. You wanted to keep your individual reality and personality there a little bit as well.
That's where I draw the line in sand, where for Tingting's question, between you adapt to environment, you get out of your comfort zone, and no, this is not what I am. I'm not changing my opinion just for the sake of making you happy. So that's my personal line. So
I think the question is, if you want to get out of your comfort zone, like it's a good thing, then it should be good for you, right? If you change, is it good for you? I guess that's the question.
Sure. What do you think?
Sometimes I feel like I have to change in order to get further, but it's not very comfortable for me. But it's a little bit conflicted because when I do get the thing I want by changing myself, I also like I would be happy because I get to the purpose I was aiming to. But it also made me to think that, am I doing this all the time, like in order to get something, to get a thing I want, to change into somebody I'm not? So that's the question.
I think it's about whether you're changing to achieve a goal that you really want to achieve. And I don't think the sense of betrayal, because I think you feel like this, if you change, you're becoming like someone else, you betrayed yourself. There's like a sense of betrayal to your true self. But if you are changing for a goal that's personal to you, like you achieving that goal not for someone else, you just like for yourself, then it's so like then it's because it's still helping yourself, then would that help?
I think that early on when I'm asking about the role model questions, what I'm really trying to say is sometimes, like at least for me, it's quite important to find out who I'm looking up with. Like after 5 years, who are the people who have facing similar challenges, and then they conquer, they remind themselves, then be able to retain their key attribute and turn them to become a strength. So normally I will try to find these type of people around me who share similar personality, what I currently see as a weakness, but then they still success. And I will have a conversation with them to figure out what they do to navigate some of the environment as well, because especially I feel like there's definitely some constraint with the environment you're currently in, and then if someone else who has managing to like get through that, they will understand, they will have a better place to give you advice as well.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Sometimes there's nothing wrong to try a little bit different things, to feel like if that works for you, that when you do that things, does it align with my value? Does it make me feel good? Okay, if it doesn't feel good, let me try a different thing. And does it make me feel good? Eventually you will find something that just align perfectly with yourself. That's when you actually shape who you are as well. So I think you are still just exploring and trying new things as well.
I'm also exploring. We should do it together.
This is actually the end of the peer mentorship session. Each of us was meant to ask a question or share a concern.
You may wonder why only Qu shared her concern. The honest truth, listeners, is that we all stole her concern and be like, sick of that.
What would be the advice you give to your younger self, like 10 years ago, of yourself? Is there any advice you want to give to them? Xiaoqi, let's start from you first.
I think I would say be more confident and try more, and don't be afraid of like facing the uncertainty. I think it's also it applies to me right now, not just my younger self.
Sending you a lot of courage and positive vibe to you. We will support you.
Thank you.
What is work to you then?
First of all, it's work provides for my life, and I think it's also a way to explore myself about who I am, what I can achieve, and what matters me most. Also, what I can do for other people.
Aww.
I want to second all of those.
second.
Agree. Tingting, what advice will you give your younger self? I know you answered this question in the first 2 episodes, but you are now allowed to thinking about something else if you want to say something to
yeah. In regard to today's topic regarding, differences between working in China and working in Australia, I want to tell my younger self, to the person before I moved to Australia, I want to tell her that it's not embarrassing to be bad at English. Not at all. Yeah.
I think the younger version of myself always find difficult to make choices in life, at work and with life. I wanted to tell her that there's no good choice or bad choice, and even if later on you feel like you made a mistake, you made a bad choice, you are still capable of making it right, changing it into a good one. So don't get too hung up on bad choices or good choices. There's no such a thing. You make your own choices, and you will make those choices good ones. It's up to you. It's not up to anyone else.
Wow, so powerful, this advice, because I do imagine someone else showed me a while back to say a lot of people thinking career is a ladder. This is actually a wrong way to visualize the career. You should see career as a river. There's a back and forth and go, but they all lead you to the ocean essentially, but there's not always going front as well. Wow, so powerful. So what is the work to you?
Work to me provides for living. That's very important, and also I get the sense of accomplishment at work, to saying that my work helped solve some problems and enabled some new things for people. And help the organization achieve some goals, and that also makes me feel proud that I can contribute to that. I can add value to that.
I want to second that too. I feel like our final episode is just going to about when we're talking about what is what. It's just going to be a summarize of the.
We copy the answers from everyone.
Copy and paste. All right. So for me, what would be the advice I give to my younger self? Is probably in today's context as well. Is I probably will ask myself to broaden my definition about work. I would probably push myself to start thinking about what work actually means to me a bit early on, because because during the time I really thinking my definition was too narrow, because there's things probably more benefits and impactful and valuable to me outside of work too. So yeah, that's advice to myself. So
all right, there it is, another episode of Tingting and Kaka's episode. Thank you so much, Xiaoque and Wendy.
Thank you. My pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.
You still here? Alright, since you listened to this far, I will let you in on a little secret.
You can suggest us a topic or to be our future guest.
Oh my god, how do you do that?
You can get in touch with us at TingTingandKaKa's.com.
And remember to like, follow, and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. 5 star.